taped the striker. All righty. It is April 8th. It is the year 2024. We are the Carmel-by-the-Sea City Council. No, but can we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Barron?
Here.
Councilmember Drama?
Here.
Councilmember Ferlito?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Richards?
Here.
Mayor Potter?
Here.
All are present.
So it has been noted Karen Ferlito is from Vermont under Government Code Section 54953B. All votes of the City Council will be taken by roll call. Karen, welcome. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Back there, I suspect. All right.
Yes, it is late.
Yeah, we're going to jump right into the item that's before us tonight. Brandon, where are you? There you are. Where is he?
Where'd he go?
Brandon. We're not going to jump into anything. There is no public comment tonight on items that are not on tonight's agenda, so we're just going to go straight to the hearing item. Eventually, apparently.
Are we gonna have public comment? On the item, but not on
Yeah.
not on the agenda.
I might notice one thing, it's, we know, and I think you probably know, I don't, it's except, we can go in public behavior where you go to, if you want to support your project, you put your thumbs up. If you don't like it, thumbs down. No oral comments would be appreciated. Thank you.
Clapping.
Yeah. What do you got?
There he is.
Brandon, you're on.
Sorry, Marnie's being interviewed by the news, and I told them they had to stop.
What?
Marnie's coming in right now. She was finishing up an interview with the news, and I said they had to stop. So,
You're going to ad lib accordingly.
hi.
Here's the presentation.
Thanks. What are we talking about? I'm just kidding. I know it's good. Marnie, I'll be right in. So, good evening, Council and Mayor. I want to start by with some thanks. I know there's been a lot of thanks so far in this process, so I won't belabor that. But I want to thank our staff, Marnie and Catherine, who've played a major role in this, our partners at EMC, who have helped us with this, and of course our ad hoc committee of Mayor Pro Tem Richards and Council Member Ferlito, and also the community. This is going to sound a little crazy, but I really appreciated the Planning Commission meeting and all the members of the public that have come out both in support and opposition to this, because I really do value that level of involvement by the community. I am personally looking forward to, if the housing element gets certified tonight, working with the members of the community, if they'll stay involved with us in continuing to make the housing element the best possible document and outcome that it can be. We will welcome everyone's input over the next years as we work on implementing this process. And so I really do, from the bottom of my heart, encourage all of them to stay involved. And as we start working on implementation and do those annual reports, or maybe even sooner reports, that everyone gets involved and shares their good ideas and continues to work with us. I also just want to fill some time because Marnie is still outside with the news, and I really sincerely apologize for that. But let me get the presentation queued up for her here, because I'm sure she'll be right in. All right. So as we know, we're here to talk about the 6th cycle of the housing element. All 5 of you were here. For those that don't know in the public, all 5 members of the City Council were here in the chambers for the entire Planning Commission meeting and saw that entire presentation. So we are going to give you a very abridged version. We have all the slides available from the Planning Commission presentation if you want to see them, but I'm going to go through a much quicker presentation this time around than what we just saw. And of course, we're having technical issues there as well. So we talked about the goals with the Planning Commission. This is where we started with the housing element. We started with the direction of working to accommodate our housing allocation while preserving the character of the village, avoiding increased building heights, and avoiding rezoning and densification of the residential district. The biggest thing was to maintain that local control, and that really set us off in the direction of not being able to go up to 3 stories in the downtown commercial area and not moving multifamily housing out into the residential districts. The other goal on the onset was to achieve a certified housing element by the mandatory deadline of December 15th, which we didn't quite get there, but we are on track right now, potentially to meet the grace period deadline of April 15th, 2024. And with that, nobody knows this slide better than Marnie Waffle, who I'd love to introduce at this point, to come up and get this across the finish line for you.
All right, well, thank you. I apologize for my slight tardiness there. So yeah, some of the consequences of not having a certified housing element are really kind of being shown with communities throughout California. So most recently, Portola Valley had their housing element revoked or decertified for failure to proceed with rezoning efforts that they had committed to. Additionally, Beverly Hills lost their ability to issue permits until they got their housing plan approved. Fullerton, the city of Fullerton, was referred to the Attorney General for failing to adopt a housing element. So as you can see, you know, these enforcement mechanisms that HCD has been talking about, they really are following through on. And it's not without, though, first working with the jurisdiction. So I do want to make that clear that they have reached out to these cities and have made an effort to work with them. I don't think they really want to come down hard on cities, but they do want to see us implement our plans. La Cañada Flint Ridge is another one that was referred to the Attorney General for failing to adopt their housing element and then subsequently denying a builder's remedy project. And then Santa Monica failed to adopt a housing element and actually received 16 applications under the builder's remedy. So all this to say, it was important to our Housing Ad Hoc Committee, to staff, to really protect the community by getting a certified housing element. There are additional penalties which could include fines and a loss of grant funding, which we do rely on locally for many of our wonderful resources like the Mission Trail Nature Preserve and other things. So this is not intended to really be a scare tactic, but it is intended to show that HCD is taking certification very seriously, and we certainly want to maintain local control and do the best we can to prepare a housing element that reflects Carmel. It? Okay, regarding housing opportunities, I just wanted to touch on this this slide again, maybe, or not.
We have copies of, we have copies of the presentation, and it's the same slide that you showed with the buckets, Marnie, from the previous presentation.
Yeah, so the next slide really is just an overview of how we're planning to achieve the 349 units. As we've discussed, approximately half would be on 3 city-owned sites, and almost the same amount would be on privately owned sites as well. I do think it's worth mentioning again that the 22 privately owned sites that we've identified are potential housing opportunities, but should other opportunities present themselves, we can certainly pursue those and count them towards our 349 units. Then additionally, we have our hospitality employee housing, which we have projected 31 affordable units, our accessory dwelling units, which we keep proudly saying that it's a very robust program here in Carmel. The property owners have shown great interest in it, and we've already approved about 21 of the 34 units that we've projected over the 8-year period. So we're well on our way to exceeding that number. Additionally, we do have quite a few pipeline projects, which are projects that are currently either approved or under construction, and we'll be able to count those units as well towards our 349 unit allocation. In total, about 57 units we already have in production, and we'll be able to count towards the 349. So I will wrap it up there. Staff's recommending that the City Council accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and adopt the mitigated negative declaration for the housing element, and then adopt a resolution repealing the 2015 housing element and adopting the 2023 housing element. And I'm available for any questions.
Questions of Marnie by council members at this time? Marnie, could you just tell me where the church lots fit into the housing opportunities list?
Yeah, so the church site that is in the site's inventory is the First Church of Christ Scientist, which has frontage on both Lincoln and Monteverde. City staff has been in communication with them over the last couple years about a potential housing project. So we did include them in the site's inventory.
Okay. So they could fall under then, what category then? Your privately owned sites?
Correct.
Okay, all right, that's my question, okay. Is there anybody else with questions? All right, I'll open it up to the public right now. Anybody in the public?
Do you mind? So to the mayor's point, the one church site is listed in the inventory, and the other religious institutions are not listed on the list of sites, correct? Yes or no is fine.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Bobby.
So Marty, it was interesting at the last meeting, just earlier this morning or today. So if we talk about this living document, that if it's looked at in 1 year, is that when they could decertify it? Like how soon could they decertify a housing element?
You know, it's really hard to say. I'm gathering my impressions from what I'm seeing happening in other communities, and what it looks like to me is HCD reaching out to a community and trying to work with them to move things forward, and that community just not participating in that. So it's really hard to say. From staff's perspective, we're ready to hit the ground running and start implementing, portions of this plan. There's a lot of work to be done. It includes zoning code amendments, it includes developing policies, all things that have to go through a process and come back before the council. So we intend to make a concerted effort to implement the plan, the different facets of the plan, and I would like to think that that would be sufficient to have HCD say they're making an effort and not come after us for decertification.
Thanks. No, I appreciate that, and I think that I would expect us to do that as well. I'm just wondering how long it takes before a city gets decertified, because the penalty for being decertified is basically builder's remedy. Comes into place.
Builder's remedy,
And so
it's fines.
if you
yep.
adopt a plan today, builder's remedy doesn't come in. If you get decertified in a year, builder's remedy comes in. If you don't adopt a plan today, builder's remedy comes in tomorrow.
Correct.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions by council members? Karen, are you okay? I guess so. All right, we'll open it up to the public then. Is there anybody in the public?
Yes.
It's just about-
I had just muted myself for a moment, but I will unmute when necessary.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll open it up to the public. Opportunity for any member of the public to speak on this item tonight. 3-minute limitation on the testimony. Appreciate it if you'd step forward. Don't hesitate.
It's me again. So I appreciate what everybody's trying to do. And I feel that it's a difficult thing, the state against us. My question to you is, and maybe Bobby, you know the answer. If you returned their request and said, we don't have any available land, then what would they have done?
We'll take that question under submission and answer when we're done with the public
I
testimony.
can't hear you?
We'll take that question under submission. We'll answer it when we get to public testimony.
Okay. That was my first question.
Okay.
Then, from what I heard everybody in the audience say, and majority of the people on the Planning Commission, that there are concerns that have been brought to your attention. So now I want to make sure the communication is open, and I want to make sure that residents are included, that the ad hoc committees are just not a party of you two, that residents are residents included? Can residents be included in an ad hoc committee? Can you answer that?
Okay, next question.
Somebody?
You have another question?
Okay, that's another good
Andy,
question.
we're not going to
Okay,
answer
two
them
good
now. We're going
questions.
to take them under submission. Whenever we're done with all the public testimony, staff will answer your questions. When we're done
Okay.
with public testimony.
Well, I've asked questions before and I haven't been answered, so that's why I want to make sure I get these answers. So there's a lot of considerations that the residents have brought to your attention. And I just need to be assured from all of you who have the voting privilege that we have voted for you, that you are going to consider our concerns when you are considering whatever you're going to tweak or do on this document. So can we as residents have that communication with you that we will be able to communicate and understand exactly what you're going to do and when you're going to do it and how it's going to go, that we can have input? I guess that's my third question. Okay.
Thank you, Andy. That was Andy Carr for the record. Anybody else wishing to speak tonight in the House? Not be shy. Anybody else wishing to speak in the room? Go out to Zoom then, okay. Oh, Nancy Toomey.
Nancy Toomey, thank you very much for everything you're doing. It's a big, hard project, and you've done yeoman's work to get us to this stage. I did want to mention that there are a bunch of new laws bubbling in and around Sacramento right now that do some, and now whether or not they'll pass is yet to be seen, I get it, so you can't count your chickens or house units, as the case may be, but that further increase penalties if we don't have a certified housing element, that are really beginning to make a dent into the Coastal Commission and CEQA rules, so, and policies and procedures that go along with that. And with that in mind, I've got some of that up on the Carmel residents website. I've got a couple more to add that are new ones bubbling. But I did want to reinforce that the risks of not adopting and certifying this housing element are far greater than not doing so. And I support your adoption of this current document. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Is there anybody else wishing to speak tonight in the room here?
Hello, everyone. Victoria Beach. As I said to the other body, obviously this is going to pass tonight. There's absolutely no question in my mind. And there will be no edits to the document now, tonight, no question in my mind. So the good news, of course, is that whatever happens next, we will be out from under, we think, we hope, with certification, the scary possibility of builder's remedy. I thought it was interesting and very eloquent what Commissioner Delves said earlier, that we are turning in a plan versus maybe our plan, meaning that this is just this one major flaw that we've all acknowledged, I believe. And I also think that when we see a hall full of folks who, from all different positions, who feel the same way about the public lands, that likely represents, for those of us who've been in politics, an order of magnitude larger number of people who actually did not show up. So that's just a reality. But I am also heartened, I don't know how optimistic I am as I was characterized, but I am heartened that the staff, I know this about them, has just at this podium tonight stated their commitment to continuing this work to get our plan. However, I think without the council also committing with milestones, with accountability, with goals for concrete action toward perfecting our plan this year, I don't think those order of magnitude folks are going to be particularly pacified. Luckily, I mean, these improvements that we're talking about don't happen automatically. It's not like opportunities sort of present themselves without the leadership that you all have already shown. And if you continue to show that leadership, and the staff continues to show that leadership, then I think we will have the unity in the community that you all seek. I think that will require a concrete action by council tonight. That is my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else in the room who wants to speak? I don't see anybody. I'm going to go out to Zoom then. Is anybody Zooming tonight want to speak?
We did have a hand raised.
Is there anybody out there in Zoom world? Don't see anybody. Last call in the house here. Does anybody want to speak in the house here?
James Art has his name.
He keeps popping up and then going away.
James, are you trying to speak? Apparently not. All right, we'll close the public comment and bring it back to council. Before I do that, Brian, would you like to respond to comments made by Mike McWalters regarding Karen Felita's participation?
Yes, I can do that, Mayor. I have reviewed the email that was sent to the city by Mr. McWalters on April 7th, 2024. I also heard the comments from Mrs. Walters to the Planning Commission earlier today. I have reviewed the 2009 California Attorney General opinion that was cited by Mr. McWalters in his email. In his email, Mr. McWalters asserts his belief that Councilmember Karen Felito has a conflict of interest and a duty to disclose her relationship with an organization known as Land Watch Monterey County. Mr. Walters also asserts that he can not discount the influence of Councilmember Felito on Mayor Pro Tem Richards, so he should also be recusing himself from voting, according to Mr. McWalters. I want to advise the council that I have reviewed the facts and the law on this subject, including the state statutes, court decisions, and a number of opinions by the California Attorney General. I have determined that there is no conflict of interest involving Councilmember Felito, so she may continue to participate on matters involving the city's housing element, both as a member of the ad hoc committee and as a member of the city council. I have also determined that Mayor Pro Tem Bobby Richards has no conflict of interest, so he also may continue to participate on matters involving the city's housing element, both as a member of the ad hoc committee and as a member of the city council.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that interpretation. Council members,
Mayor,
under discussion.
well, would it be out of order if we did answer the questions that were asked?
Which ones? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, but yes. I do want to answer the question posed by
Mrs. Carr,
Ms.
yeah.
Carr, yes. Andy Carr.
I can
Three
start,
of them.
Mr. Mayor, if you like. Her first question was, what if there are no public lands available? And the fact of the matter is a lot of jurisdictions that don't have any public land to even offer up as part of their housing element. And in those cities' cases, they would have to look at intensification of building in existing developed properties, private property. i.e. they could not rule out raising the height limit in their commercial district or in their residential district. They could not rule out allowing multifamily development in their single-family zoned properties. So, I mean, those are the potential outcomes. But again, as both Marnie and Brandon reinforced, those two tenets were sacrosanct at the beginning of this process almost 2 years ago, as set by the City Council and supported by the community at that point in time. Mrs. Carr's next question was regarding allowing ad hoc committees to allow public members. And so Brandon can remind us of what the Latin term for ad hoc means at a later date. But what the Brown Act allows is a subset, a non-majority of the City Council or any elected body or appointed body to meet on a specific topic for a period of time. It can't go on ad nauseum. And that's what the council has used in the recent past, a lot of different topics, whether it's the flock camera system or housing, wine tasting on private property, a whole variety of topics. And I think, Mr. Mayor, what you said at the strategic planning meeting a couple weeks ago was very apropos, which is sometimes there's a benefit of allowing the ad hoc to meet just the two of them with members of staff to set an agenda, to really nail down what's going to be talked about. I think one of the examples where we have invited the public, Councilmember Richards, is for the ambulance, the ambulance ad hoc. We invited a series of community members to join that committee. So to answer Ms. Carr's question, it's really up to the ad hoc committee. The ad hoc committees in our city traditionally have public meetings where the public is invited. The ad hoc committee for housing invited the public to, I think, all of the meetings that you held. So I think that dispatches with the second question by Ms. Carr. And then I think the third question really is a question for the council, which is will the council continue to welcome and communicate with the residents to receive input through the next phases as we begin the implementation of what could be an adopted housing element.
I personally commit to that, and I think I see heads going north-south on that. I think we're going to be open as possible. Absolutely.
I think that the ad hoc committee for housing was unique and different than others because it was such a big, heavy topic that every time Councilmember Ferlito, staff, and I met, we had a meeting, like a council chambers meeting. So we didn't really have any. It was really agenda setting for the meeting that we had. We had 14 public meetings. That's a lot of meetings around a subject. And so we met, we discussed what we were going to talk about at the meeting, and then we had a meeting. And that essentially was an ad hoc meeting because oftentimes there were no other council members here.
And to the police department project, we've certainly been more than open lately. We've had a study session, we had a speech listening session, we've had multiple tours. I want to thank the public for taking part in the tours last Friday. Very educational. So we're going to be very, 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 very open on that one. So I don't see any problem there. Okay, council members. So Karen, did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, not at this time.
All right.
Are we having discussion now?
Yep, we have everything you want.
Oh, okay. I'd like to add something.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week at the Tuesday council meeting, we were supposed to have a policy discussion whether we as a council want to keep the city-owned sites, the north and south lots of Sunset Center and Vista Lobos, in the housing element, but we did not have that discussion because the city attorney told us that the meeting had not been noticed properly. I would like to have that discussion today. I think it would be very quick and brief and we could do it. And I just wanted to quote back from last Tuesday's meeting. Mr. Perrick said the decision on whether or not to keep the city-owned sites in the housing element or not will not be made on Monday, or will be made on Monday, April 8th, until the decision on what language to put in the Surplus Land Act will be made on April 8th. You should consider all that, and when it comes back on April 8th, you'll be making the decision on those too. So in the name of keeping the public's trust, I would just like to have that discussion right now.
Certainly.
And it could be a simple, just yes or no.
We can lead it off.
Okay. Should the city keep the sites in the north and south lots of Sunset and Vista Lobos? My answer is no. I can certainly go into more detail when I have my comments.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
I'll speak.
Go ahead.
You know, I think, you know, this plan, as I spoke and this is just to the parking lot question, correct?
Right.
This plan, you know, as we talked about last week and every week, every month before that, has been through a lot of revisions and iterations with HCD, and the way that the parking lots, the three city parking lots fit into the housing element is not just in terms of the housing units, but it's also in terms of the affordable housing units. And as you know, as much as, you know, there may be alternatives, whether they are the church parking, the religious institution parking lots, which I still question whether religious institutions will give away some of their income to build affordable units, or whether it's in, you know, public, whether it's in the R1 zone or however it is that this is going to work. I think for me, the fact remains that we have this plan that we have the ability to adopt tonight. And if there are revisions, and I'll speak more to this in a few minutes, but if there are revisions, you know, and it's the council's will to make revisions over the course of the next 6, 9, or 12 months to remove the city parking lots and find alternatives to the city parking lots, then we are free to do that. Like we respond to the public, you know, as I think we try to, as I think we should. And if it's the council's will, we can do that over the next 9 months. But the question tonight is whether we should, you know, stop the progress and subject ourselves to penalties from the states, or take this one step and then revise. And my preference would be to take the one step of leaving the parking lots in the housing element for the time being, and then decide, you know, we can decide tonight if we want to explore removing them, you know, over the next 6 or 9, 12 months. We can add it to the city's priority list, or however it is that we manage that list. I'm sure that list is coming back to us at a future council meeting, but I don't think that's the right action tonight to take a 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 month detour off of that path.
Well, I guess my question would be, Councilmember Dromoff raises a good point, and I would ask her, do you plan on changing R1 to R4 and raising the height limit in downtown, like substituting that out?
I'm not taking your, and I know you try to do this to me, Bobby, that you try to throw questions back at me, but no, right now we're having the discussion on whether we want to keep the city-owned parking lots or not. So that's all we're asking for right now.
Okay, so there's no substitute. Okay, thank you.
All right, Karen, did you have any comment?
Yes, I think the way the plan is written right now is certifiable. I think if we remove those parking lots, it would not be. So I think what Councilmember Barron said is right. We move the plan forward, we protect our local control, and then we wait and see what happens with the ADUs and the other units. I think the other thing is that some of the downtown sites that were offered by the public as something that might be better were not maybe considered as viable because they would require deed restriction for the very affordable units. And I think that is probably not a viable solution. So yes, I think we should keep the parking lots in at this time.
You all personally support leaving them in now, but I do want to be clear that I'm not going to support a consolidated effort to go have nothing but affordable housing there. I think we're going to create a tenement then. I don't support that at all. I think what we need is a community that's balanced, where we have a proportionate share of affordable housing scattered out throughout the community. I'm not going to support 100% affordable on that site, period.
Can I ask Brandon or Marnie a question?
Yeah, Marnie, Brian.
I don't know, whoever wants to answer this. If we were to take the parking lot out, would you see us getting this certified?
I mean, my opinion, you're asking my opinion as the planning and building director, no. We would not have a place to say where those 100 and some odd affordable units would go at this point.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, so do we have any other discussion on this? I think we have consensus.
So
Yeah. All right, so other actions, questions, comments by council members?
I'll go ahead. I'll explain my position about the parking lots. I am opposed to using the city-owned parking lots as sites for large apartment buildings for affordable housing because it is out of character and out of scale for our small village. Further, sociologists, housing experts, and the state itself says that this kind of concentrating or warehousing of affordable housing units all on one massive site is detrimental and counterproductive for the residents of the housing as well as the community at large. We want our new residents to be treated with dignity, not stigmatized or ostracized. The affordable housing needs to be integrated and dispersed throughout the downtown. To that end, and because there has already been public outcry against using the parking lots at Sunset and Vista Lobos, I would like to make a motion to direct staff over the next year to make a concerted, earnest, good faith effort and promise documentation and as Victoria Beach just mentioned tonight, we need concrete goals and proof of how we can get there. To make an outreach to the downtown business owners and the church representatives to find out if they're interested in building the affordable housing so we can get the numbers there and the city sites off the list. And Mr. Mayor, as you just mentioned, it needs to be integrated and on a small scale, this large scale, massive apartment building. And as Commissioner Delve said in his previous testimony during the Planning Commission meeting, we cannot afford to make such a massive, large mistake. It would really be wrong. We need to focus on doing things small scale. So I would like to propose that we make that motion, that we actually get the staff to work with us and provide us concrete goals, that they are reaching out, and we certainly as council members can also reach out to business owners and churches and see what we can do, with the goal being to take those city sites off.
I don't have a problem with that motion. I'll second it.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. So that motion isn't saying that we're going to take it off tonight.
Realistically, I don't think we can take it off tonight. We need to get this approved, but I think it needs to be our top goal in the name of community unity, that we get them off and we find another way to get to those numbers. And we work with Brandon and the planning department, and it's a living document.
Okay.
I would just like to, if I could, Mayor, make a comment about the motion. I'm interpreting that motion to be a request for a future agenda item to be consistent with the comments from Councilmember Dramoff, which you can do under the Brown Act, is to ask for an item to be coming back at a future council meeting. So if the motion is to request staff to come back at a future meeting with the information that has been requested by Councilmember Dramoff in her motion, that's perfectly appropriate.
But this is not a motion that would end the hearing, correct?
No.
I'm asking Brian.
I'm sorry, the question?
So this is not, this motion would not end this hearing, right? Without us, we would vote on this motion and then proceed to the adoption of the house, or not adoption of the housing element.
The answer is yes.
Okay.
I have a question, please. If this was not on the agenda tonight, per se, so bringing it back on a future agenda would be more the way to go, wouldn't it?
And that's what I attempted to indicate in my comments. So if there's any question about that, let me be clear that the motion, as I understand it from Councilmember Dramoff, is to bring back to a future council meeting. I believe you said within a year.
Well, no, I would like us to do this at our May meeting so that we can give staff a year to work on this and then come back to us with concrete written results of what they've been able to accomplish.
All right. So the way I understand the motion now is that in one of your meetings, I guess the first meeting that you have, at your first regular meeting in May, that you would have this discussion about what direction the council may wish to give to staff with respect to returning, consistent with what Councilmember Dramoff has asked. But in either event, it's perfectly legitimate to ask for a future agenda item to be put onto the council's agenda.
My only comment would be, I don't know if May can accommodate May, because it's kind of a cluttered agenda already. I'm sorry, but.
Well, as soon as could be
sure.
feasible, so we don't
Absolutely.
let too much time go by.
As a seconder, I support that.
I think I understand the homework assignment, and we're going to stop using that topic after this topic, but yeah, I don't work with Councilmember Dramoff, but I think we can form like an outreach and education, and how we're going to actually approach the religious institutions and the commercial property owners, and so we'll have some ideas at the very least to talk about when we bring this back. And I think June should be our budget adoption hearing, but we'll bring it back as soon as possible. I understand what's being asked. I understand the motion.
But the goal is really to get those city-owned sites off of the housing element.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
Okay,
Yeah, I would just say that before we could remove those sites, we would need to see some evidence that people are willing and able to deed restrict some of the properties in the downtown area before we could substitute what is a viable site for something that might not come to fruition.
Well, to Karen, I mean, yeah, I mean, to Karen's, for purposes of discussing this motion, to Karen's perspective, I mean, as I've talked to Brandon before, you know, when we were talking about the ADU ordinance, the ultimate arbiter of all of this question is HCD. So, you know, whatever, you know, I'll support this motion, but I question whether that can be done in a year. I don't have any idea what HCD's workload is. So,
Excuse me. I thought you were done.
Oh, so, you know, I'll support the motion. I think a year is probably optimistic for getting a revision of our housing element and given all the other housing things that are going to be done, but, you know, give it a yeoman's.
So my recommendation is, since this is going to be a future agenda item, that the point now be limited to whether to add it to the future agenda rather than the merits of it. So I understand there's a motion in a second.
Motion and a second. This is an item that's come up prior to public discussion. Might open it up to the public and see if there's anybody in the public who wants to comment on this item. You clear on the motion? Yes, no? Dan? Yep.
So as
So
I
this is
recall,
specific
the
to the
meeting,
motion.
pardon me?
Specific to the motion.
What?
So, see, your questions are specific.
I have a
Comment
question.
specific to the question that's, the motion that's
I can
before.
only ask a question?
It's got to be specific to the motion that was just made.
Yeah.
Okay, a question about the motion that you just
That was-
made.
Yes.
Okay, question about the motion you just made. So,
You could make a comment about the motion.
I can make a comment about the motion?
Right.
Make up your mind. Okay, my comment is that I think it's very important that the public feels that you're listening to them. And at this meeting, I heard a lot of people that were very concerned about those sites. And they want to have input and reassurance that they're going to be able to communicate with you for the future of those sites on that list. And I feel that as community members who voted for a city council and a mayor, that you should be responsive to them, because as I was asked when I interviewed for, what was that committee? Beach and
Forest and Beach.
Forest, that if I could put my feelings aside to vote accordingly of what would be best for the community. So that's what we all need to feel from you, because you are voting one way, and yet I've heard a lot of people feel a different way. And so, did I get that across?
Yep.
Do you get it?
I understand it.
Okay.
Thank you, Andy. Is there anybody else wishing to speak tonight?
I have to say that I'm Joe DiNucci, resident. I thought the motion was very, not only civil, but very creative, and a way to show the people who have been so outspoken and concerned about the public lands that they've been heard, and that if there is a better solution, this is one possible path to find it.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Nucci. Is there anybody else wishing to speak tonight? Anybody zoom in? Victoria Beach is making her way up.
Victoria Beach, hi. I love the motion. I love the second by the mayor. I would just hope that you all can decide on a meeting tonight, that you will put it on the agenda, because I know, having sat up there, how hard it is to fit these things in. So if it can't be May for some reason, I don't anticipate that this is actually a long discussion. This is, shall we vote at a future meeting to have the staff come to us with a plan about how to do this? Yes or no? I don't think it's a long item. I would recommend putting it on May, because it really is, it should be a yes or no 5-minute discussion in May. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Victoria. Anybody else wishing to speak tonight?
We have 2 hands raised on Zoom.
Michael, Noakes. Mr. Noakes, you've got your hand up.
Hi. Thank you again. Considering public opposition regarding the lots and research exposing the detrimental effects of large concentrated structures, I am hoping the motion is approved and discussion is placed on an upcoming agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Noakes, appreciate that. Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Margaret Byrne, possibly Dale Byrne.
It's Dale Byrne. I was there up until a few minutes ago. Thank you, everybody, for all the incredible efforts you put into this. I think what this is saying, and thank you, Alessandra, for bringing this up, because I remembered that from the last council meeting. I think that what we're saying is we'd like to make this a living document the second that it's approved, which is probably a good idea. It's, and I think it's not just the planning staff, because they're pretty swamped, or Chip, or all of you guys are busy, and ladies, but I think it's behooving all of us, because we're all interested in this town. We all know a lot of people who own a lot of property, and we've got a lot of creative developers in this town. We see it happen all the time. And I know I've got a meeting with somebody that's in the room tomorrow morning to start looking at some of these options, because it's a pretty fascinating opportunity to do. And a lot of us have done development. So I challenge everybody that was there tonight to start putting your thinking cap on and coming up with ideas that we can do, because we shouldn't just push this back on staff. There are a lot of us that can help out, and I'd like us to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dale, I appreciate that offer. Is there anybody else wishing to speak tonight? I don't see anybody. Nova?
There's no more hands raised.
We do have one guy in the house, though.
Hey guys, Hans Buder. I just wanted to, I think, echo some of those statements. I think hopefully if it gets taken up at a future meeting, it can happen quickly. You know, the date in my mind that stands out is this RFP date, which I guess, at least of my last reading, was the end of 2025. I know it had been pushed back from the end of 2024. And so to my mind, that's the key date. And, you know, time is kind of the essence, because if we, as I think Mr. Delves said in the last meeting, there are prescriptive, you know, things that we've committed to, right, in this housing element, if we don't hit those dates, right? And so I think that moving quickly would behoove us. I think that, you know, if there was a way to squeeze it in May, I think that would be ideal. And then I also wanted to echo what Dale said. You know, I think the staff has spent a good deal of time on this, and you know, they've tried to be creative. They've worked with a consultant, and I think, you know, what I would love to see is how can we get some other voices in the room, and it almost feels like something that kind of needs a skunk works project, right, with some creative ideas. I think that's kind of what we've seen. This church option is one option. There could be other ideas, and whether that happens informally or not, I think that could be really helpful. And you know, I would love to certainly help out with that. So, you know, curious, maybe this isn't the right venue for that, but I'd love to see some more kind of definitional flesh on, you know, what that could look like going forward. So, thanks so much.
Thank you, appreciate the testimony. Is there anybody else wishing to speak tonight? I don't see anybody. Close it, bring it back to council. So, council members, we have a motion, we have a second to go ahead and set this forward at the most immediate date we can come up with.
I hope we could do May and just keep it really short, just so it's still fresh and we've got the momentum from tonight's meeting. And also the testimony we just heard from members of the audience.
All right, I don't have a problem with May. I'll go ahead and amendment, I'll accept the amendment.
Thank you.
Okay, one motion and a second, any other discussion? Nova, would you call it, please?
Wait a minute, would you please repeat the motion, because some things just got added, perhaps.
So what got added, Karen, was the fact that we'll try to get it on the May agenda.
Okay, but what exactly is the motion?
Hey, Brian, you want to read it back?
It's a motion by Councilmember Dramoff to return in May or as soon as possible her request is May, council meeting for a discussion about a future agenda item to address issues of potential alternative locations and sites to put into the housing element, and to determine whether or not there might be some opportunity for exchanging those sites for city-owned sites. That's the way I heard the motion, but I would encourage Councilmember Dramoff, if I misstated, to correct me.
I think you got most of it. The only other aspect that I would like included is that we would also direct staff to provide us with written concrete goals along the way when they are reaching out to business owners and churches.
Okay.
Jeff,
So I have a comment. You know, we have a whole list of strategic priorities, and we have not. I appreciate that this is important to Councilmember Dramoff, and what I would ask Councilmember Dramoff is if we approve this motion, if in turn that will garner her vote on the housing element. Like, is this enough to make the vote 5-0, and not like, does this matter enough to you that it could, you know, that we will get, you know, that this secures your vote and we stand unanimous? The other comment I would make is that we have a whole list of priorities, and while we as a council manage, you know, we manage CHIP inarticulately, you know, in our private meetings with CHIP, and, you know, and by CHIP I mean staff, you know, inarticulately, you know, at our one-on-ones with CHIP, and in hearings such as this one and the other one, you know, there are a whole list of things that are important. You know, there's a whole list of, you know, the design traditions, you know, to pull one out of air that Victoria's involved with, the design traditions thing has languished. And what I see by prioritizing this project over every other one, by assigning it concrete deliverable dates with CHIP, is that everything else falls behind. And and that concerns me. You know, it concerns me that the design traditions will fall behind because this will consume planning staff.
That's a discussion for another day, don't you think?
And with all due respect, Jeff, we're talking about this RFP is in 2025. This is urgent. This is probably our top priority along with the police station. We absolutely cannot compare it to some of the other things on our priority
My
list.
recommendation is that we defer the conversation about the merits of what action to take in May or whenever it comes back at that time.
Very well.
Okay, anybody else? We have a motion and a second. Are we clear?
Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Dramoff?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferlito?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Potter?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, guys. All right, maybe we should move in then to the meat of the matter, which is one is the adoption of the Associated Mitigated Declaration Monitoring Program and Reporting Program to the housing element of the general plan. We have a motion.
Well, I'd like to make some comments. So I've commented a lot in the past about the comments from the public, and today, if Dave, you'll give me 5 minutes, I'd like to comment on some of the comments from the planning commissioners, not necessarily to put the planning commissioners on the spot, but rather to sort of give some ideas into how I sort of view this problem. And I'm going to leave a couple of them off, and I apologize in advance for that. But Commissioner Locke stated that the numbers didn't come from the state, the numbers came from AMBAG. And I would like to say that, you know, AMBAG was given a number of like 30,000 or 40,000 for the combination of Monterey and Santa Cruz County. And the population of Monterey and Santa Cruz County is like 600,000 or something like that. And so the ratio, you know, the average number was about 7% or something like that. And we were given a number of 349, which is about 10%. So as much as everybody, and so I appreciate that 10% is greater than 7%, but as much as everybody thinks that Carmel is being picked on, our number is in line with every other community's number. You know, so there wasn't, you know, I didn't get a sense from watching the AMBAG meeting or anything that we were being picked on. You know, there's a formula, you know, an imperfect formula that was vetted by HCD. You know, the AMBAG representatives, Karen and other council members from other communities, didn't just come up with a formula to didn't just come up with a formula to punish Carmel or punish Monterey, which also got an enormous number, or anything like that. You know, this methodology of apportioning out these numbers to communities was vetted by the state. So everybody plays, you know, everybody played a part in you know, the assignment of the 349 number. And to Commissioner Allen's comment that the state has reduced the problems to one number, you know, with respect, you know, the state gave us all the flexibility in the world. The only thing the state or AMBAGs did was give us a number of 349 and a number of affordable units. You know, it's up to us. You know, there are no restrictions. The state hasn't really put any restrictions on us as to how we get to 349, other than we have to get to 349. This is a homegrown document that was developed by Bobby and Karen, thank you very much, and our staff. Thank you very much. With the input of the public, given those two big criteria at the beginning, thank you to the public for that. And this is the document that we gave up, that we as a community developed. And I appreciate that people don't, you know, people think that it came from the state or something like that, but I don't agree with that. You know, the state, you know, AMBAG gave us this number, and the community is homegrown. The plan itself was sort of homegrown by the ad hoc committee and by the community and all that. So those things, the things that this is the state doing it to us, the state is asking us to help, that just as the state is asking every community in the state to help for us to do our part in solving the housing problem in the state. Like, this is what the state is asking. Every community needs to do its part, whether it's Carmel or Monterey or the unincorporated part of Monterey County or Santa Cruz or the unincorporated part of Santa Cruz or Beverly Hills or La Cañada Flint Ridge or whatever. Like, everyone is doing their part. And we are all residents of the state of California. We are not just residents of Carmel. We are all residents of the state. And I believe, and I hope that part of my community believes as well, that we should help other people and have empathy and help solve, you know, the housing problem. Like, this is important to me, and it's important to a lot of people in this community, that we do our part. And for all the differences that Victoria and I have over her sort of last minute plan, I know that Victoria thinks that too. You know, we agree that we should all do our part, you know, to help. And this is really important to me, and I think to a lot of people in the community. And when Commissioner Delve says that we should stand with other communities to help us do the right thing, it's hard for me to draw any inference other than we should just sue the state so we don't have to build any housing and we don't have to participate in the state's housing problem. And that is not a vision of Carmel that I share. Like, that, this idea that we can stand alone and not participate, you know, and I've talked about this before, not participate in the problems that are occurring in Monterey County or in the state. Like, that is not, there's no empathy in that position. And I like to think of myself, and I know, see Bobby looking at me, and Bobby will laugh. I like to think of myself as being empathetic. And we are all in this together. You know, I sit on the board of MST, and MST, you know, is building an $80 million single lane bus route from Marina to Sand City to shave. The commute is so bad that this is what it's down to. $80 million for a one-lane bus route to run 20 or 30 or 40 buses every morning to shave 15 minutes off of the commute from people that live in Marina to come to Monterey and come to Carmel. That's how bad the problem is of people not living in our community that work here. And those people, by the way, they're not just coming from Marina, they're coming from Salinas. You know, there are people that drive from Salinas to Marina to Carmel to come here and to work in our hospitality industry or work in our homes. And these people matter. And we should have some empathy toward, you know, to helping solve the problem that MST is going to spend $80 million to solve, a huge amount of money. And that stuff is important to me. And unlike, Commissioner Delps, it's important to me that we stand up here and we do the right thing. And accommodating housing is the right thing. And, that's the right thing for our community. We see the number of second homes going up. We see absentee owners. Our community is being hollowed out. And we need to fix it. Like, we need to stand up and find solutions for this. To the problem that, to the warehousing problem, I would take a little bit of an issue. I think when my guess is that when most people do the studies on warehousing, they're talking about 500 unit complexes like, Cabrini Green, the infamous Cabrini Green, or all those complexes on the Lower East Side in New York City. And we're not talking about that. So I have less of an issue, with an affordable housing complex that has 30 units. But I also agree that it would be better for people that are in affordable units to be spread throughout the city. Like, I have a lot, I said this last week, right next to me that's selling for $2.8 million. It's, basically a tear down. Like, I would love for the city to find a way to tear down, a $2.8 million brick house, and put in, 3 or 4 affordable units. Like, my street's like mostly empty. And, would I trade a parking issue on my street for like 3 or 4 neighbors or 5 or 6 neighbors or however many would fit in a, 3 small apartments? Yes. Because it would make my street feel like a community. And that's what Carmel used to be. We all forget this. When Carmel, back in the 60s or 70s, when Carmel had 6,000 people or 7,000 people, and not 3,000 people where we are now, and 2,000 people, which is where we'll be in 20 years. And to some extent, that's a result of other things that maybe we can or can't do anything about. But, these things matter. They matter not to our property values. I mean, I understand, the concern about property values, and that's a thing that's sort of been, put on us but through various forces. I understand that. But while I'm here, I'd like to have a community in my neighborhood. This is important to me, that I see people on the street, and that I talk to people, and that I know people, and I see people everywhere. So that is important, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. And finally, in terms of water, as Commissioner Locke stated, who works at the water agency. One more thing about what one of the commissioners said. What are 30-year-olds going to do here? Like, that was an actual statement. What are 30-year-olds going to do here? Well, we have lots of 30-year-olds working at the city. And they would do what every other 30-year-old would do. They would go to work in the morning, and instead of getting in their car and driving from Marina to Carmel, spending 45 minutes in the car, they would get up, from their, affordable unit, and they would walk to City Hall, or they would walk to Public Works, or they would walk to the post office, or they would walk to the high school. When we talk about places to get funding for affordable units, there are lots of teachers that work at the high school and at the elementary school that are complete walking distance from the city. These people could live in our community and not even have to have a car. And when people talk about walkable communities and having people that work in your communities live here, that's what makes a community a community. Having the people that work in our shops, or work in our police department, or work in our work in public works, or work in planning, and I see Catherine here. I'm not even going to ask Catherine or Marnie or Evan where they live, and have them not have to drive 45 minutes. We have police officers that live an hour from here. Like, that's insane, to be in that situation. And this stuff matters, so we become a community. And we don't become a place where people live and are served by people that live somewhere else. Like, that's not a community. That's like a gated community. And that's not what I think that Carmel is, or what Carmel should strive to be. Like, that's not a good vision. That's not a good look for a community that 100 years ago was an artist community and had people that moved down here to escape or to associate with themselves or whatever. That's not in the same path. That those are not the same. And finally, Commissioner Locke spoke about water And I think what was the desal, the year was 1994. That was when the CDO was issued. Is that right? 1995. So this community, like being us and all the peninsula, we have had literally 29 years to fix this problem. Like this problem became a problem of the Monterey Peninsula community in 1995. And how much progress have we made? Zero. You know, what do we, you know, Monterey is getting ready to repurpose used water to serve housing over in Monterey. What did we do? What happened with the Carmel Area Wastewater District? We purpose our water to serve golf courses. Like that's where our gray water goes, to serve Pebble Beach golf courses. So Pebble Beach paid some money for so Pebble Beach paid for some of the improvements at COD, and we ship our gray water over to Pebble Beach. So this problem that we have with regards to water, you know, when people say it's two state agencies facing off against each other, that's actually not, I don't believe that that's entirely true. You know, the state agencies are looking at Monterey Peninsula and they're saying, you can't fix your problem, now we're gonna give you a little shove. And we'll work that stuff out later, and that's what I think they're gonna do. They're gonna work it out. Like nothing, you know, we're not gonna get sued by HCD because we don't have water because of the State Water Resources Agency. Like the state will work it out. But this is, we have to acknowledge our own role in not having water and these sort of anti-growth forces, you know, that sort of shut off the water supply tap, you know, 29 years ago in 1995 and then 2004 with the whole water meter thing and all that. So we are all responsible for this. And so the water excuse for me is an excuse to not do anything. And I don't stand by it. Like that is not something I support. I believe, you know, Commissioner Locke is right when she says water is coming, and I think we should plan for it. And to the builder's remedy thing, we do have a property owner that already owns 2 big parcels in town, 2 big undeveloped parcels. Like we've seen those applications here. So we do have a property owner that owns 2 undeveloped parcels with water. And so this builder's remedy thing, I think, is important. You know, I think that is a factor. And so I think that we should move forward tonight and fix it. Thank you for your indulgence.
All right, Karen, did you want to speak? Karen, did you want to speak?
Karen.
I could not hear Dave at all. Dave, your hands are in front of your face.
Sorry, Karen, did you want to speak tonight?
The microphone wasn't, I just turned the microphone on.
My mic was off, apparently.
Are we on the subject of the mitigated declaration?
Yeah, it would be nice if we would. Maybe somebody could make a motion to approve and we could have some discussion around that.
Yes, I'd like to make that motion that we approve the mitigated declaration.
All right. You want to read it into the record?
No, I think that's sufficient. It's in the agenda.
All right, okay. All right, we have a motion. We have a second? I'll second it. Go ahead.
I'm happy to, I was looking at
Yes.
Bobby, but I'll second it.
Seconded by Member Barron. Richard, okay, so Karen, your floor is yours. Karen, you can speak now. We have a motion.
Well, I can't read the motion. I'm sorry, it's posted on the door.
It's fine, it's handled. We got it handled. You're
And the
good.
door is not where I can read it. If Brian could read it for me, I would very much appreciate it.
I can do that. The motion would be to adopt a resolution 2024-028, adopting a mitigated negative declaration and associated mitigation monitoring and reporting for the 2023-2031 housing element of the general plan.
Thank
We have
you.
a second. Seconded by Councilmember Barron. You can have the floor now, Karen.
Would you like to speak to your motion, Councilmember Ferlito? That's what the mayor's asking, ma'am.
No, I support that motion.
Okay.
Good, okay, good. Excellent then, okay. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Nova, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Jeremov?
No.
Councilmember Ferlito?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Potter?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
All right, why don't we see if we can frame the next discussion around the final resolution here. which is adopt resolution 24/2020-029, approving a general plan amendment to repeal the 2015 through 2023 housing element and adopt the 2023 through 2031 housing element of the general plan in compliance with state housing development law. A motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by by Richard, seconded by Ferlito. Do we have any discussion? I don't see any. Oh, we're going to call a roll.
Oh, I'll just add my
Okay.
comments to what I earlier said, but all along I've been concerned with the loss of local control, the state overreach, and the one-size-fits-all policies from the state that are wrong for Carmel, and we really need to do this right. We must take out the city-owned lots, and I support finding a way for us to do that.
I'd second that emotion also. I think, honestly, I'm not happy with being here tonight because I don't like the fact that we didn't have any opportunity as a community to go ahead and say to our electeds, hey guys, we elected you. I was so positive when everybody was coming forward, running for the state office. They were from city councils, they were from county supervisor seats. I thought they'd carry a message to Sacramento that we wanted to maintain local control. That hasn't happened. I think we need to send that message back again and tell them, look guys, we count on you to represent us. Don't drop the ball again. I'm very disappointed to be here tonight. Go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting with these 5 council members, all of us come at it from a different point of view. Some, as Jeff, Alessandra, Karen, myself, and the mayor, we all have our own point of view on this subject. And for me, what was important was that I felt as a representative of the residents of this town, I needed to protect this city. And protect this city, for me, was the builder's remedy. That scares me. I thought that would be a real game changer in our downtown area if any developer wanted to come in and do a low income or affordable housing program. So that was I guess why I was so passionate about it, was to protect this city. And I think that staff, I can't thank you enough. Karen, it's been absolutely a dream working with you. I found you to be pleasant. You were open to different ideas. We both have different views on this, but we came at it with a let's get it done for the city of Carmel, and we did. And I think it's going to pass once we send it to Sacramento. And I'm very proud of that work. And I think there's more work to be done. I do appreciate all the passion that Councilmember Dramoff has, all the passion that Jeff has, and also the dedication that Karen had to this project. So with that, I am voting yes.
Okay, I'd like to say that first and foremost, I want to thank the planning staff, housing team, especially Brandon, Marnie, and Catherine for all of the hours they put into this very, very important housing element document. I'd also like to thank all of the consultant people at EMC, and thanks to Chip and Nova. I know Nova's had to do a lot of work lately on my behalf. I'd also like to thank the members of the community who attended the many meetings we had and made helpful suggestions and worked with us to find solutions. And finally, I'd really like to thank my co-chair, Councilman Richards. We came at this with different ideas, different solutions. I found him to be creative, positive, especially thankful to the team. He was always there as the cheerleader for our very dedicated planning team. This has been a very interesting and challenging process as we work through the document. We've all learned a lot about affordable housing needs throughout our state, our county, and finally our city. It took courage, patience, and perseverance to get where we are tonight, about to send this very, very important document to the state for a certification. Thank you to all who came with positive solutions and were willing to work towards this plan. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
I will
Karen.
be supporting the motion.
Appreciate it, Karen, thank you. I think one of my solaces is that we're not going to be done with these projects. They're going to go through a thorough vetting, a thorough review when they come forward. we're not just capriciously approving anything tonight, other than the concept that maybe something will work here. But when the plan comes forward, it's going to go through a full process here. So I think that's a relief to me. So I'm comfortable with the process that it'll lay out before us. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Are we going to call a roll?
Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Dramoff?
No.
Councilmember Ferlito?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Potter?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
All right, now we're not quite done with business of tonight. We got one other resolution we've got to adopt. It's 2024-1224, receiving the annual comprehensive fiscal report for the fiscal year ending July 30th, 2023. I doubt very many people are here for this, but if you want to clear the break and
Can
quietly.
is this 5 minutes or 20
No,
minutes?
it's a 2-minute.
90 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If I can start by saying, I just wanted to thank our team here, the finance, especially Jane Hogan, who's in the gallery, and the department heads and the staff, and the council, certainly with your leadership. It's always nice to have a clean audit. Mr. Chavan is here. He'll be talking to you about his findings, and hopefully we can get out of here in a short order. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Good evening. Everybody hears me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, excellent. I'll try to keep it short, get to the point, and we'll move on from there. So looking back to June 30, 2023, the audit was performed under generally accepted auditing standards and generally accepted governmental auditing standards. Following those standards, our objective was to express an opinion on the financial statements of the city, and in doing so, let the readers know whether or not the financial statements are free of material misstatement. Keep in mind that the financial statements include more than one opinion unit, and if you had a chance to read through the 146-page document, you would feel that there is definitely more than one opinion unit included in there. So with that being said, there are responsibilities that we have to follow as an audit firm, and those responsibilities include providing our opinion with a reasonable assurance, not an absolute assurance, but a reasonable assurance that the financial statements are not materially misstated. And keep in mind, while it's not absolute, it is a very high level of assurance. Our audit is risk-based per those standards. We perform procedures related to internal controls, including testing controls, documenting controls, inspecting controls, and then observing how those controls work to determine our audit plan and do our risk assessments. And within that, we issue an opinion that I'm happy to say was unmodified. So that means that we did not find any exceptions in the financial statements. We do not believe that those financial statements as of June 30, 2023 are materially misstated. We feel that they can be relied upon. Some other points really quick to touch on. I'll get to the meat and potatoes, as I like to say, the audit results themselves. Besides the fact that you have an unmodified opinion, there were no exceptions in the opinions. We issued 2 separate opinions for each of the standards we followed, and keep in mind that if you look at the generally accepted governmental auditing standards opinion letter that we issue, it says in there that we do not issue an opinion on the internal controls, which is correct. Now, in today's world, we can now do that. It's just a separate engagement. It's called an integrated audit. So that's a newer standard that's been released the last couple of years that allows us to do that. It's not required, but it is something that is there and an option for local governments these days. We did not have any material weaknesses found in the audit. The only type of adjustments that we actually did have were report reclassification adjustments. So nothing that would require an adjustment to the actual general ledger. We did not have any disagreements with management. We did not have any significant passed on adjustments. So those would be adjustments that we deemed to be below our materiality threshold. And if they were significant, we would bring them to your attention. However, we did not have anything that we determined to be significant. We did not find any control deficiencies that needed to be reported to the council. I will say that obviously the audit is late. So 2 years in a row where we're later than we want to be. So the timing of the audit was pushed back because of difficulties at the city with turnover and whatnot. We will continue to work with the city going forward to help alleviate that and ensure that we move this audit back onto a normal timeline. With that being said, unless you wanted to talk specifically about any numbers, actually before I end my presentation, one note, if you do read through the financials, in the required supplementary information section, there is a page that summarizes your pension liabilities, specifically related to CalPERS. And in that, if you look at the 10-year history, you will note that the last 3 years, there's been some significant swings. So the liability has gone up significantly since June 30, 2022. If you remember, or if you were around when I did my last presentation, I did touch on how that liability was expected to go up last year. So in essence, from June 30, 21, you had a significant decrease in the pension liability, and that liability has gone back up as of June 30, 2023. So 21, down in 22, back up in 23. The simple reasoning behind it is that the plan investments did better for the fiscal year 22 results. So in the CalPERS investment pool, the plan investments returns were better than expected. In fiscal year 23, they were worse than expected. So everything flipped. So with that being said, I will go ahead and end my presentation, give you guys a short, brief presentation. And if you have questions, I'll be happy to stick around and answer them.
Sheldon, let me see if there are any questions by council members. Council members, do we have any questions?
I have a couple of comments after
We'll hold it for comments. Is there anybody in the public wishing to speak to this item? I don't see anybody. We'll bring it back then for council comments and action. Jeff?
Yeah, first, using your judgment, I'll make a motion to approve this.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second, under discussion.
Yeah, a couple things. One, Chip, Mr. Siobhan, it's good to see you again, like we do every year at this time. Talked about doing that integrated audit to assess staff's controls over money, and that's of interest to me. So I would appreciate it if you could talk to Sheldon and let me or the council or whatever know how much money that is. And it seems like we should do that. We had problems years ago, and well before you. So we should, I think we should go down that road again. And then I do think that the beginning of April is a little late to be doing this. So maybe next year we could do a little bit of better planning and have it before the beginning of April, as this fiscal year is almost over. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. I have a second. I'd just like to say that unknown material weaknesses or other findings are identified as part of this audit. That's what I look forward to. Well done. It's a good thing. So thank you. Sheldon, thank you for your brief report. I appreciate that. Very well done. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll get a roll call.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Councilmember Barron?
Yes.
Councilmember Dramoff?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferlito? Oh,
I think
can you
it was yes.
unmute yourself really quick?
It's late.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Potter?
Aye.
Motion
It's
carries.
unanimous. All righty. Thank you all guys very much. I want to thank the public too for their participation. Thank you. Okay, we're done.
Have a good night.
Good.